You ever had water dripping down a pipe right in the middle of a repair? And no matter what you do, it just will not stop? That kind of problem can turn a simple fix into a nightmare real fast. After over 25 years in the trade, I have picked up a handful of old-school tricks that most guys never learn. Today, I'm walking you through 6 old-time plumbing techniques that will save you thousands of dollars. Number 5 is one most people have never even heard of, and stick around for the bonus tip at the end because it is a game changer. The first old-time trick on this list is the bread trick for soldering wet lines. This one has been around forever, and it is still one of the best-kept secrets in the trade. Here is the problem. You shut off the water, you cut the pipe, and there is still that slow drip that just will not quit. Even a tiny bit of moisture will ruin a solder joint because the heat cannot get the copper up to temperature with water wicking it away. So here is what the old-timers figured out. You take a piece of plain white bread, not the whole wheat fancy stuff, just basic cheap white bread. You tear off a small chunk, roll it into a tight little ball, and stuff it right up into the pipe past where you are going to solder. That bread acts like a temporary dam. It absorbs the water and holds it back just long enough for you to flux the joint, heat it up, and get your solder to flow. Once you turn the water back on, the bread dissolves completely and flushes right out through the nearest faucet. No residue, no blockage, nothing. You would not believe how many guys have paid a plumber $500 to $1,000 for a repair they could have done themselves if they just knew this one trick. The key is to make sure you use plain white bread with no seeds, no grains, and no crust. Those extras do not dissolve as cleanly and could get caught in your aerators or valves downstream. Pack it in firmly, but not so tight that it cannot dissolve. Once pressure returns. It is simple, it is cheap, and it works every single time. The second old-time trick that saves people serious money is wire brushing and fluxing like the old guys did. This sounds basic, but you would be amazed at how many DIers and even some younger plumbers skip proper joint preparation and then wonder why their solder joints leak. Back in the day, there were no shortcuts on this step. You grabbed your fitting brush and your emery cloth and you cleaned every single surface until it was shiny bright copper. No exceptions. The outside of the pipe gets cleaned with emery cloth, or a strip of sand cloth about 4 inches wide. You wrap it around the pipe and work it back and forth until you see that bright penny color all the way around. Then you take your fitting brush, which is just a wire brush size to the fitting, and you ream out the inside of every coupling, elbow, and T until it shines the same way. The old-timers would tell you that solder does not stick to dirty copper, and they were absolutely right. Once everything is clean, you apply a thin, even coat of flux to both the pipe and the inside of the fitting. Do not glob it on. Too much flux can actually cause problems because it gets pushed inside the joint and creates pinholes over time. A thin coat is all you need. The flux does 2 things. It keeps the copper from oxidizing once you start heating it, and it helps draw the solder into the joint through capillary action. When you skip this step or rush through it, you end up with cold joints that look fine on the outside, but leak under pressure. That kind of failure can cost you $300 to $800 in rework, drywall repair, and water damage. Take your time on the prep, and you will get a watertight joint every single time. The third trick on this list is the double valve shutoff using a bleeder cap. This is one of those old-school moves that can save you from a small flood when you are dealing with a shutoff valve that will not fully close. It happens all the time, especially in older homes. You go to turn off the water under the sink or behind the toilet, and the valve gets about 90% closed, but that last little bit of flow just keeps coming. Maybe the seat is worn. Maybe there is a little debris stuck in there. Either way, you have got water trickling through and you cannot do your repair. Here is what the pros used to do. Instead of fighting the valve or calling someone in, they would install a bleeder cap or a compression cap right on the outlet side of the valve. You close the valve as far as it will go. Then you put a small bucket underneath and disconnect the supply line. Take a 3/8-inch compression cap, slide on the compression nut and ferrule, and tighten it right onto the valve outlet. That cap stops the remaining trickle completely and gives you a dry workspace. You do your repair, reconnect everything, and remove the cap. The whole thing takes about 2 minutes. Without this trick, that slow trickle can cause $400 to over $1,000 in water damage if it gets away from you, especially if you are working on a second-floor bathroom where water can seep into ceilings and walls below. Keep a few compression caps in your toolbox at all times. They cost less than $2 each, and they are worth their weight in gold when you need them. If this is helping you out, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. It helps get this video in front of more people who could use the info. All right, let's keep going. The fourth old-time trick worth knowing is using a candle or flame test to find hidden drafts and leaks. Before guys had fancy electronic leak detectors and thermal cameras, they had to get creative with what was available. And honestly, this low-tech method still works surprisingly well today. Here is the idea. If you suspect you have a hidden water leak behind a wall or near a slab, one of the telltale signs is a subtle temperature difference or a faint draft coming through a crack, gap, or opening near the affected area. You light a candle or a long match and slowly move it along the baseboards, around pipe penetrations, and near any visible cracks in the wall or floor. If the flame flickers, bends, or goes out in a specific spot, that tells you there is airflow coming from behind that surface, which often points to moisture intrusion or a compromised pipe area. Now, this is not going to find every leak. It is not a replacement for a professional inspection if you suspect a serious slab leak. But as a first pass to narrow down where the problem might be, it is incredibly effective and completely free. The reason this trick saves you thousands is simple. Undetected water leaks are the silent killers of a home. A slow leak behind a wall can run for weeks or even months before you notice it, and by then, you are looking at $2,000 to $5,000 in mold, remediation, drywall replacement, and structural repair. Catching it early with a simple candle test can save you from all of that. The old-timers did not have gadgets, but they had sharp instincts and practical methods that still hold up today. The fifth trick on this list is pouring salt and baking soda to maintain your drains. This one comes straight from the old-school playbook, and it is one of the easiest habits you can build to avoid expensive drain cleaning bills. Most people wait until a drain is completely clogged before they do anything about it. By that point, you are either buying chemical drain cleaners that eat away at your pipes, or you are calling a plumber to snake the line at $150 to $300 a pop. The old-timers had a better approach. Once a month, they would pour about half a cup of plain table salt and half a cup of baking soda down each drain in the house. Then they would follow it with a full kettle of boiling water. The salt acts as a mild abrasive that scrubs the inside of the pipe walls as it washes through. The baking soda helps break down grease and organic buildup that clings to the inside of drain lines over time. And the boiling water melts and flushes everything downstream. It is not going to clear a full blockage, and it is not a substitute for a proper snaking if you have a serious clog. But as a preventive maintenance routine, it keeps your drains flowing freely and dramatically extends the time between professional cleanings. Over the course of a year, this simple habit can save you anywhere from $150 to $600, depending on how many drains you have and how often you would have otherwise needed service. No chemicals, no tools, and it takes about 5 minutes for the whole house. The sixth and final old-time trick on this list is the wax ring doubling trick for toilet flange issues. This is a problem that plagues older homes especially, and most homeowners have no idea it is. happening until the damage is already done. Here is the scenario. Your toilet sits on top of a flange, which is the ring that connects the toilet to the drain pipe in the floor. Over time, floors get retiled, subfloors get replaced, or the flange just sits too low compared to the finished floor surface. When that happens, a single standard wax ring does not have enough height to create a proper seal between the toilet and the flange. The result is a slow leak at the base of the toilet that seeps into the subfloor every time you flush. You might not see it for months, but underneath, the wood is rotting, mold is growing, and the damage is getting worse with every flush. The old-timer fix is straightforward. Instead of using one standard wax ring, you stack two of them. You place the first wax ring on the flange as you normally would, then you press the second one directly on top of it, making sure they are centered and seated firmly. When you set the toilet down and bolt it in place, the extra wax compresses and fills the gap between the low flange and the toilet horn, creating a solid watertight seal. Now some guys will tell you to use an extra thick wax ring instead, and that works in some cases. But when the gap is significant, doubling up gives you more material to work with and a more reliable seal. This trick has saved countless homeowners from $300 to over $1,000 in subfloor and floor replacement costs. If your toilet rocks slightly, or you have ever noticed a faint smell near the base, check that flange height. A couple of wax rings at $4 each is a whole lot cheaper than ripping out a rotted floor. All right. Here is the bonus tip that pros actually use and most people have never thought of. Before you start any plumbing project, take your phone out and snap a photo of every connection, valve position, and pipe layout before you touch anything. The old-timers used to sketch it on a scrap of cardboard, but a quick photo does the same job even better. Here is why this matters. When you are 3 hours into a repair and you have got parts spread out everywhere, it is incredibly easy to forget which fitting went where, which direction a valve was oriented, or how the original layout was configured. That one photo becomes your roadmap back to sanity. It takes 5 seconds, costs nothing, and has saved more jobs than most people will ever admit. Make it a habit before every single project. Thanks for watching the whole thing. If you got something out of this, leave a like, subscribe for more, and check out the other videos on the channel.